Thank you for joining You've Got Questions, We've Got Answers. This week's question should be the last in a series of questions related to removal from school for our students. This week's question is specifically regarding students who have been identified as a student with a disability. The question is, what specific interventions, strategies, or approaches can be used instead of suspension from school for students who've been identified as a student with a disability? So I'll start with a reminder that generally speaking, it's accepted that there are 10 days that students with a disability can be suspended from school without much having to happen. And if we adopt that philosophy or that approach, or that becomes our strategy, then we've signed off on our students with disabilities missing 6 hours of instructional time. I think most would agree with me that our students who've been identified as a student with a disability do not need to lose more time at school. We are typically looking for ways to stretch them and to give them more instruction, not less. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. When we really begin to unpack this question and talk about what's available, the first thing that I would ask you to do is to visit your RTI response to intervention or your MTSS, a multi-tiered system of support. Visit that framework that's existing on campus. There should be one in place for academics and behavior. I would encourage you to look at the behavior track. The way that the system works is that there should be a universal approach that's used on campus to target all base behaviors of students. And as students' behaviors increase, so should the interventions, and they should match the behavior of the students. And again, this would be known as RTI or MTSS. So that would be one place to start and look. Another thing that can happen is I would look at the manifestation review process, manifestation determination review process. Generally speaking, it is done at the 10 days of suspension mark. I would look at that happening much earlier. I would look at going to the table for a manifestation if there is a pattern of behaviors and we haven't hit the 10 days. I will go if we have a major event that would lead to a 3-day suspension or 5-day suspension, I will ask to go to the table. Going to the table does not mean that a student is going to be removed, but it brings all the stakeholders in so that you can talk about the behaviors. You can talk about whether the behaviors are related to the student's disability. You can talk about what interventions do we need to put in place, what specific goals may we need to add to the student's IEP. Do we need to provide specialized instruction in something related to the behaviors that we're seeing to make sure that we're targeting them and working on them? Coinciding with looking at manifestation process, I'll be asking for a functional behavioral assessment. So functional behavioral assessment, hopefully done by a board certified behavior analyst, will allow an opportunity for that professional to come in to do some observations, to form a hypothesis on why the behavior is happening, to look at some strategies that may work as proactive strategies and may have some things that would be responses when a student is acting out. All of those things are put together during the functional behavioral analysis process, and then they're put into a document which is commonly known as a behavior improvement plan. Behavior improvement plan, again, tells here's what the target behavior is, here's how that behavior looks. Here are some antecedents that we typically would see. Here's the behavior. Here are some strategies and ways that we can redirect that behavior or reteach, restate, address that behavior. So that functional behavioral assessment, commonly referred to as an FBA, and behavior improvement plan, commonly referred to as a BIP or a PBIP, those two should go together. So between looking at the response to intervention model or the MTSS model within your school, looking at are we in a position to bring the IEP team to the table and talk about the student's disability and if the behaviors are related and what needs to be our next steps, and then incorporating the functional behavioral assessment into that process to make sure that we have a great written behavior improvement plan that all of the staff on campus follows and implements with a high level of fidelity. When we do that, we've created great options to address our students' behavior without removing them from school. If this video has helped you, please comment, please like, please share, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you would take a moment and look in the description section of the YouTube video, there will be a link to some resources and articles that will help further your conversation and your movement within your campuses to reduce the amount of suspensions for students who've been identified as having a disability. I hope that you have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon.